So there are these videos floating around of people who claim they have uploaded their consciousness. But let's think bigger. What if any of us could upload our consciousness? Does that mean we become immortal? Are we still us? How does it even work? Okay, we can actually answer these questions because we already have the tech. It's called a Neuralink. And one day soon, it might be possible for us to download ourselves into a new body, or maybe even just a computer. In 2020, Elon Musk unveiled his company's work in progress, brain-computer interface, which they call a Neuralink. A Neuralink is a high-bandwidth brain-machine interface that allows signals from the brain to be decoded by a computer. The idea is that this could help people with severe disabilities like locked-in syndrome, allowing them to communicate by typing on a keyboard based on where they're looking. In 2021, they announced that one of their test subjects was able to use a Neuralink to play a simple video game by decoding signals from his brain as he attempted to move a cursor on a screen. It's not science fiction, it's happening right now. But let's think even bigger. One day, Neuralinks will become smaller and more efficient and wireless. One day, we may be able to upload our consciousness to one. But what exactly does that mean? By upload my consciousness, am I downloading someone else's consciousness into my head? Is that person me? Is that person you? What happens to the original person? Does the uploaded person retain memories of the original life? Does that original person die when the consciousness is downloaded? Or do both the original person and the uploaded person exist separately? What if two people download the same consciousness? Do they merge? What if a consciousness is downloaded into an artificial body without a physical brain? Is it still a person? What if that artificial body has a physical brain? Is that person now immortal? Let's go back to the beginning. What exactly is consciousness? Consciousness is a property of living things. An organism must be alive in order to be conscious. Life itself is a property of biological organisms. All living things exhibit several common characteristics, including the ability to move and change. Living things also grow and develop, meaning that their internal and external changes are permanent and not temporary. Living things reproduce, meaning that they create more of themselves. Living things are organized into cells, which are the smallest units of life. Cells replicate through a process known as cell division, in which a single cell divides into two identical daughter cells. Cells are also capable of carrying out the processes necessary for life, such as metabolism and response to stimuli. If we were to list the criteria that something must meet in order to be considered a living thing, then consciousness would be included on that list. So, in a sense, we could say that consciousness is a property of life, much like reproduction, growth and development, organization and movement. Just as no non-living thing can reproduce, grow and develop, be organized or move, no non-conscious thing can be aware, perceive, or think. Therefore, if you want to preserve consciousness, you only need to preserve life. So uploading your consciousness is really just a matter of transferring your life to another body, either a real body or an artificial one. The only way to transfer life from one body to another is through reproduction. The reason why we do currently have immortality is because no individual organism can reproduce on its own. Organisms need some sort of partner in order to reproduce. This is why we need sperm and egg cells. Single-cell organisms can reproduce via a process called fission. But fission requires the organism to duplicate its entire genome before splitting into two separate cells. Even if we had the technology to extract all the information stored in our DNA and reprogram a single cell to contain that information, that cell wouldn't necessarily be us. That's because we're made up of trillions of cells, each of which has a complete copy of our genome. So uploading our consciousness would require us to find a way to reproduce. There are two ways we could accomplish this. The first would be through sexual reproduction. Imagine you and your partner each created your own Neuralink profiles by having your consciousness scanned and uploaded to a computer. Then, at some point in the future, Maybe when you're feeling lonely, you decide to merge your profile with your partner's profile. You instruct the computer to combine the two scans and create a new scan, which is output to a new artificial body. This new body begins to grow and develop. It ages, and one day it gives birth to another artificial body containing the merged consciousness. This new baby grows up, ages, and one day it too decides to merge with a new partner. This process continues indefinitely. Technically, this is a form of immortality, but it's probably not what most people mean when they talk about uploading their consciousness. That's because the new bodies being created aren't exact copies of the original bodies. If two people merge their consciousnesses, then the resulting child will be a combination of both of those people. So while the consciousness of the original two people will continue to exist in some sense, the individual consciousness of each person will eventually be completely overwritten. The second option is asexual reproduction. Imagine you had your consciousness scanned and uploaded to a computer. You then create a copy of the scan and upload that copy to a new artificial body. That body ages, and one day it gives birth to another artificial body containing a copy of the original consciousness. This process continues indefinitely, like the previous example. This isn't technically immortality. It's more like a form of cloning. To achieve true immortality, we would need to find a way to reproduce without needing a partner. That means we would need to find a way to reproduce without sex. There are a few ways that we could accomplish this. One would be to use artificial wombs. There are companies working on this technology right now. Someday soon, it may be possible to upload your consciousness into an artificial womb, where it is grown until birth. Another possibility would be to use 3D printing to create artificial bodies that are fully compatible with human consciousness. But to truly upload our consciousness, we would need to find a way to reproduce without using a womb or a 3D printer. We would need to find a way to reproduce without using any resources at all. Luckily for us, nature has already solved this problem. It's called a seed. Plants use seeds to reproduce. A single seed contains everything needed to grow a new plant. Seeds don't need to be planted in soil. They don't need sunlight, water, or nutrients. All the seed needs is time. Given enough time, every seed will sprout and grow into a new plant. Given enough time, every uploaded consciousness will age and begin to fade away. So, if we want to upload our consciousness, we need to find a way to use a computer to store our consciousness. We already have the technology to do this. It's called RAM, Random Access Memory, or RAM. It's a type of memory used in computers to store data that is actively being used by the processor. RAM is faster than other types of storage, such as hard drives or SSDs, but it is volatile, meaning that it loses its contents when power is lost. However, if we were to use multiple computers, we could create a redundant array of independent nodes, or RAIN, which would allow us to store consciousness in a fault-tolerant manner. In other words, even if one computer fails, the rest of the computers could continue to function properly. So, what would it take to store a human consciousness in a RAIN? Well, the human brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons. Each neuron can form up to 10,000 connections with other neurons. If we were to simplify things and assume that each connection is represented by a single bit of data, then we would need a minimum of 86 trillion bits of storage. At the time of this writing, the largest computer memory module available is 64 terabytes, or 64 trillion bits. So in theory, we could store a human consciousness on a single computer. However, we would need to significantly increase the number of connections that each neuron can make in order to accurately represent the complexity of the human brain. Additionally, we would need to account for the fact that neurons don't just store data, they also process it. In order to truly upload a human consciousness, we would need to store all of the data in a way that it can be fault-tolerantly processed. This means that we would need to use a massively parallel architecture in which multiple processors work together to execute a single program. This would allow us to distribute the workload across multiple computers, making the system more efficient and fault tolerant. So in theory, we could store a human consciousness on a single computer, but to do it in a way that is both accurate and fault tolerant, we would need to use a massively parallel architecture consisting of many computers. Unfortunately, we are still a long way from being able to do this. The human brain is simply too complex for us to fully understand, let alone recreate in a computer. But one day, it may be possible. And when it is, we will finally be able to upload our consciousness.